Now these Aqua-L Ledi 60 aquariums are really a great value quarantine tank for your saltwater fish. So one mistake that so many people make, especially when starting out fish keeping, is to get complacent and not have a quarantine tank. Now these tanks are pretty much ideal because they're very cheap to buy, they're European quality, and they come with the essential things. They come with a light so you can inspect the quality of the fish, a filter, and a heater. So basically all you need to do when you're about to get new fish is to fill this up with water from your aquarium, then add some RO water with a bit of buffer, because what you're aiming to do is when you add fish to your main display tank, you'll generally want to keep the salinity of the main display tank at about 0.025. So instead of having to lower the salinity to introduce new fish to ease osmotic pressure, what you can do is just introduce the fish to the quarantine tank. Now when you introduce new fish, their immune system is low from all of the stress from the transport and collection and all the rest of it. So therefore they've got a low immune system, which means they've got low amounts of antibodies, and their pathogen count tends to be very high. So when you put them into the quarantine tank or into a display tank, they're going to drop a whole lot of pathogens. So those pathogens go through a life cycle, which includes a dinoflagellate phase, where the pathogens swim around looking for a new host. Now in a main tank, you can't do much about that. Maybe you can try UV sterilizers, ozonizers, and various things to minimize the chance of pathogen infection, but you can't really medicate because all the effective medications are not reef safe. Whereas in a quarantine tank, it's very cheap to medicate because it's a small tank as opposed to a big display tank, and you don't have invertebrates in there to be concerned about. So you can allow the new fish to dump their pathogens in a new aquarium which is medicated, and then once they've dumped their pathogens and they've settled in and they're eating your food and they've got to know you, then you can increase the salinity slowly back to the same as your display tank. You can make sure the pH and temperature is the same, and then you don't need to acclimatize the fish across. You just catch them with the net and throw them straight in your other tank. So it's a very minimal amount of stress to get introduced into your main tank. And I will generally leave fish in a display tank for 2 to 4 weeks, preferably 4. And then that allows them to settle in. That allows a bit of time for their immune system to come back again. It allows them to get used to your food, get used to you, and most of the risk is gone. If the fish are going to fail due to a low immune system, then they're going to fail in the quarantine tank. Because what you need to remember is that particularly with imported fish, they may have been a month without feeding. They may have been under stress for quite a while, which means it's possible that by the time you get them, their immune system is near the end. And then the extra stress of settling into your aquarium might be enough for them to get sick or even die. And then when they get sick, there is possibility of them transferring disease to other fish in your tank, which can be devastating. That's why the value of a quarantine tank is absolutely everything. So you want to try and make sure that you have a quarantine tank of at least 60 litres, preferably more. The Ledi also comes in an 80, which obviously costs a little bit more, but will make your fish even more comfortable. All you need in the quarantine tank is a little bit of hiding holes. Make sure the fish have got places where they can hide. You don't need substrate, you don't need anything else. It doesn't have to look good. You can just pull it out whenever you need it, fill it up with water from the fish tank, then lower the salinity to what your supplier is offering, which is usually around 1.020, but it's best to check. And the other thing that's great too is if you can run your filter inside the sump or inside your main display tank, then the filter can be full of good bacteria. And then when it is time to engage the quarantine tank, you can actually pull the water across and pull the filter across, which is full of good bacteria, because what you don't want is to have to cycle the quarantine tank with the new fish. A tank of this size, I'd only be quarantining a couple of fish at a time, and I would not want to go through a cycle. So if you've got well established bacteria in your filter, because your filter has been running in the main tank for months, then that's going to avoid the cycle. The other thing you can do is pull out some Marine Pure cubes or spheres or whatever you're running in your main display tank and throw them in this tank as well, just for extra biological activity. So anyway, I just wanted to once again stress the importance and security of getting a quarantine tank for your display tank. If you've got any comments, any thing to add to this little video, then by all means put it at the bottom of this video. But a quarantine tank is worth its weight in gold, and it often saves you from problems that you didn't know you were going to have. So it really vets your fish and allows your fish to become aquarium ready, and allows them to get over the stresses of the moving, allows them to be fed back up again so they're nice, fit and healthy. Because with fish, they will do anything to try and look healthy so they don't get picked on by other fish. So your fish might look totally fine to you, but your new fish might be near the end of its immune system. When other fish figure that out, they often pick on them. So having a just quarantine tank where you can tank ready your fish, you can fatten them up, you can de-stress them, just really makes them much more equipped to settle into your tank and to deal with any territorial confrontations that they may have in the new tank. Worth its weight in gold.